America.
the small. Lay a big hit and pass a kickball. This game is for us all. From Seattle down toward the Keys, this game is you, this game is me. Cast dogs and steer, be the tree. This game is America, so sing it loud with me. College football forever. College football forever. Downtown LA, Starkville City. 1 week you're up next, take a dip. Run the rock or let it rip. This game is America. All say, can you sing it with me?
We just stepped on her face with a hot-tail moving across her nose. Whoa, Nelly!
College football forever. College football forever. College football forever. College football forever.
College football is a year-round discussion with these two. Here's JC and Morgan. Mike Morgan of ESPN and JC Shurburtt of 24/7 Sports have you covered. Beginning right now.
I'm all alone, it looks like. This is the JC and Morgan College Football Show 365. I guess I'm just here by myself. Phil has gone away. There's Mike Morgan.
I'm sorry. I don't know what just happened. I just froze.
Me either. I was like, wow. I was like, I looked up. I went to hit a button on YouTube to make sure our audience gets that, and saw that. Well, we were not there.
You
but,
know,
it's all good.
As if Bill Gates is not an evil enough man. I put all this money into, because I tried, for those of you who are Apple snobs and you know who you are, and I get made fun of all the time, and I don't care. I have a Droid, and I will have a Droid till I die, JC. But I did used to have MacBook Airs, and they just kept breaking on me. Maybe I just beat the crap. I mean, I travel a lot, so they're in my bag a lot, but maybe I just beat the crap out of them. I don't know. So then I switched over and joined the dark side and gave Bill Gates more of my money. And I keep buying these Surface Pros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what they do is, for those that have this, I don't think it's like this on Apple. They just decide every now and then you need updates, right? And they want you, they'll let you click, well, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. But basically, if you don't do it when they want, certain things just won't work. So
Oh man,
on another show yesterday, everything was working fine, but my camera wouldn't work. So I had to get the updates before my camera would work. And then it's always something. So anyway, we're good now, and we'll be fine the rest of the way. And we're back. Yes, episode number 268 of JC and Morgan. If you're scoring at home, or if you're by yourself, we've got a lot to get to. You know, we love the offseason on this show because we always get busy on the guest front. One of our favorites, of course, friend of the program, Tom Luginbill of ESPN. You know him, you love him. For many years, much like JC, one of the pillars of the national recruiting community. And he does have to go to Bristol to cover the second national signing day. But now Lugs is involved in a ton of stuff. He was on the ACC primetime game of the week, and we just love talking ball with Lugs. So we'll do that. We'll also bring back the five or dimer with Lugs. He's always got thoughts on that as well. So we'll, for those of you who love the five or dimer, I always get people, why don't you do five or dimer? It's just tough to do it in the regular season. We're in such a time crunch because we try to cover, as a weekly show, we try to cover everything that goes down in one of the sacred weeks of the college football season. And that's a lot to get to in a podcast that we try to keep within 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, JC? So it's
it's tough because it's a preview and review. Like once the season starts, it's weird.
Yeah. So it's
there's a lot. It's like going to the Golden Corral.
It's like
can't eat it all, brother.
Can't eat it all. What a great date place if you really want to impress your future missus. Take her to the Golden Corral. Serve her up an extra couple of biscuits. That's true love. That's what I say. Valentine's Day, 10 days away. So
coming up, yeah. I did that one time. There's a girl I wanted to get rid of when I was in Nashville. And I took her to the IHOP 3 straight times. It turns out she loved the IHOP. And I was like, God, this is just gross.
That's like a Seinfeld episode. George is
that's a George Costanza.
It's a George Costanza because he wants to extend his unemployment benefits. The woman that he has to go and see, the bureaucratic woman at the office, she's not buying it. She's not thinking. And George is like, no. It's not just that I'm looking for work. I listen. I'm listening for work out there. So she's not going to extend his benefits until he goes. He looks at the daughter, which is less than attractive, a picture of her daughter on the desk. He's like, is that your daughter? What a goddess. So he winds up taking her out just for the sake of getting his unemployment benefits extended. And then he's worried that she might like him. So he takes her to McDonald's and she goes, wow, George, that was a really great meal. I really enjoyed that Big Mac. So it's just I could see you doing something like that. We're going to get to the JC5. We're now we're running a little bit behind. So maybe we have to save that for the last segment, JC. Probably. I do want to mention this. So the college football playoff came and went, and I don't live in a world where everything is perfect. I know the people that spend valuable time just ripping the playoff to shreds as if we had some perfect system with the BCS for 20 years and then the 14 playoff. I understand that it's going to be tweaked. It's going to be improved. It's never going to be perfect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Okay. And the other, there's so many concerns that you would hear about. We can't do it in a playoff because this, that, and the other. And one of them was, and I always was very sensitive to this one, because you and I don't pay to go to games, JC. You and I have chosen a profession. We've been very fortunate that when we go to games, it's typically on a press pass, right? So I've never wanted to put myself in a situation where I'm not sympathetic to people that they have to spend their hard-earned money on a thing like following their team in a college football playoff and just say, well, too bad, because that would be hypocritical because I'm not actually paying for it. So when I would hear those things, I'd be like, well, that is one interesting point. Like if you're an Ohio State fan, let's just say, for example, and you wanted to follow your team throughout that run to a national championship, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. How many people can do that? Well, I'm going to tell you who did it. So my wife just happens to have a very good friend who I've met, Nikki and her husband, Josh, and they live in northern Kentucky. And I don't think they'd mind me saying this. They work. They're in the casino business. They don't own a casino. Like, they're literally like working tables and stuff. They're hard-earned working Americans. The point of that being is they're not just like made of money, right? So if you're made of money, yeah, you can go to all these games, no problem. Every school's got those big whale boosters. Well, these people, Nikki and Josh, don't have that. They're like most of America, just working, paying bills, and every now and then they want to follow their favorite team and see them in person. So how does this couple from northern Kentucky, huge Ohio State fans, like massive, they go to a road game every year. They were there for the 2014 national championship under Urban. They know the player, not personally, but they know their stuff. They're all in. Nikki and Josh are all in. So I have their itinerary following the Buckeyes en route to a national championship. So the first game was a home game, but they don't live in Columbus, so it's not really a home game. That's 120 miles one way. $315 a ticket. Okay. You go and you stay in a hotel one night, and then you drive back after the game. That's the first game, to watch them blow up the Tennessee Volunteers. Now they're at the Rose Bowl. Ohio State is. Well, what are you going to do for that? That's 2,200 miles. Well, you buy a plane ticket. Now, they're very smart about this. They're not afraid to go on Frontier, Spirit, Southwest. Whatever it takes to get there, damn it, they're going to see their Buckeyes. So there's another $280 a ticket. That's actually not that bad. $280 a ticket to go across the country to the Rose Bowl and see their Buckeyes. Now, the hotel, you don't stay right near the Rose Bowl if you don't want to spend like big money. They find a hotel in Rancho Cucamonga. You ever been to Rancho Cucamonga, JC, in your myriad of travels?
Yes, there's a Ronald Powell, who was the number one player in the country, signed with Florida, had signed with Urban, played for Muschamp, had a lot of injuries. I believe he was from Rancho Cucamonga. I think it's in the Inland Empire, but it's I think Lou's would know more than me on that, but it's not LA. I mean, it's out where in what they call the Valley, or maybe the Valley. I don't know.
It's 40 minutes away is all I know.
Yeah, but it's a lot of great football players come out of Rancho Cucamonga.
Okay, so hotel and Rancho for $260 a night for 3 nights. That's 40 minutes away from the Rose Bowl. The flight was $737 for 2 round-trip flights. The rental car was $150 for 3 days. The ticket's $280 a ticket. That's I said $280 for the flight. I was wrong. That's $280 for the actual ticket, which is less than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. The flight, again, was $737 for 2 round-trip flights. So that's about $370 a ticket. Hotel, $260 a night for 3 nights. Boom, pick up another win. Life is good in Buckeye Nation. Well, now they got to go to the Cotton Bowl. What do? That's 1,000 miles one way. They wind up driving to that one. So they drive to the Cotton Bowl. $330 per ticket for the Cotton Bowl. Hotel was $350 a night for 2 nights. Again, they had to drive because, remember, that's when the weather was just horrific. So their flight was canceled. But originally, the flight was $340 for 2 round-trip flights. Gas to drive to and from Texas, $400. $400. So now you've gone this far. You're not going to miss the national championship game in Atlanta, are you? Of course not, they said. Nikki and Josh are like, we got this. How far is it to go from northern Kentucky to the Benz in downtown Atlanta? It's about 500 miles. How much were the tickets? Okay, this is where it gets a little... You're going to wince at this. $2,800 per ticket. Ouch. That ain't 50-yard line either. A lot of corporate money goes into those tickets. People that don't even... It's like Super Bowl. You think everybody that has a expensive ticket is a fan of the Eagles or the Chiefs? No. It's just like a prestige thing. Big money. You just got to be there. So $2,800 a ticket. The hotel, not too bad, $320 a night for 2 nights. Gas to drive to and from Atlanta, $200. This, of course, does not include alcohol, meals, activities, which they did in each city. So you're into 5 figures. When you add all that up, that's over 10 grand. And you know what? When I asked if they would do it again, I'll tell you what Nikki told me. Abso-frickin-lutely. Because they love their Buckeyes. And it's a national championship. And that is their entertainment. And there's nothing that they find more entertaining than following their favorite team en route to a national championship. So even with a playoff and even with all those road trips and all that money that they had to spend, these are hardworking people. They're not made of money. They're not trust fund kids. For them, it's big smiles on their faces as they walked out of the Benz with a national championship. Just thought I'd share that to give a little perspective on what some fans go through to follow their favorite team. You cannot beat the passion that we have in the sport of college football.
Amen. All right. I think Lugs is in. So
Lugs is in. Speaking of passion, can we sneak it? Do you want to put them in or now, or do you want to sneak a quick break in?
Let's get a break.
Let's get a quick break in,
and then
we'll get
we'll
Lugs
be
right
in.
in.
Hang tight, Tom. We'll be there soon.
Hang tight. Lugs on the other side. We'll be back, JC and Morgan.
Low on energy? Struggling with inflammation and poor digestion? Try Encapsulate 6 Mushroom Blend and get back in the game. Our blend is specially formulated to promote overall wellness and maximize health benefits using 6 powerful functional mushrooms. Our science-forward approach offers the most potent and bioavailable mushroom supplement on the market, backed by third-party testing to ensure safety and efficacy. Order online on Amazon or encapsulateusa.com today to start your journey to better living. Enter promo code JCM for $10 off.
Mike here for our friends at MG&A Wealth. It's never a bad time to have someone on your side for all your financial needs. You need a trustworthy partner who has a true understanding of your situation in order to help you with smart and practical solutions. Since 1984, MG&A Wealth has helped their clients manage not just their wealth, but their lives. Today, as a nationally recognized wealth management firm, their team of pros remains dedicated to serving your best interests with an emphasis on personal attention and customized solutions. MG&A Wealth has clients all across the country, and they all get results. Don't put it off any longer. Call our friends at MG&A Wealth at 954-289-9000. That's 954-289-9000. MGAwealth.com is the website. They do more than manage wealth. They help manage lives.
We're passionate about making sure that the Nest and Wild mattress is the best it can be. Made well and made right. Right here in Tupelo, Mississippi. So how can we do all that? Work. Hard work. And that means something. The Nest and Wild mattress is a movement. It's a pride in where you come from and where you're going. So get comfortable. Because this movement is just beginning.
This is JC and Morgan on the Chief Sports Network.
College football forever.
And we are back. Again, it is JC and Morgan presented by MG&A Wealth. You just saw there Rudy. Rudy took it on the chin the last college football game, of course. A man who never takes it on a chin, or anywhere else for that matter. It's Tom Luginbill of ESPN. He's impervious to pain. He's a gladiator of the sport. And he's, I believe, going to go from his palatial estate to Bristol today to cover the second National Signing Day. Is that right, Lugs?
I'm already here in my illustrious Bristol, Connecticut hotel room.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, looks
behind
like
me. I must comment, JC, you're right. Inland Empire, so Rancho Cucamonga, Riverside, Corona. You start out getting to near Hesperia, some of those areas out there. My dad's originally from Corona. I was born in Pasadena.
I
So
knew.
very familiar with that area. In fact, fun fact here. So there's a junior college in Rancho Cucamonga called Chaffey College. So my grandfather won a national championship at Chaffey College as a player. My dad won the junior college national championship as a head coach at Pasadena City College. And then I won one as a player at Palomar College, all in the state of California.
That's awesome. Yeah, California JUCOs are severely underrated in the grand scheme of JUCOs.
Well,
They a lot of great players.
I mean, the portal has just crushed junior college football.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but yeah, I mean, back in the day, like if you were a non-qualifier, man, and your school wouldn't take Prop 48s, you were going to junior college, and those teams were loaded. My team had dudes on it, man. I mean, none of them went on to play because they didn't want to go to school. I did, but nobody else wanted to go to school. But they had some guys.
Well, the Mississippi JUCOs were a feeder system for years.
Oh yeah. Well, do you guys remember
talent.
when Houston Nutt tried to turn when they didn't have the cap rule on how many guys you could sign?
He signed 30.
That was I remember it was beautiful.
39 guys, dude. That was unprecedented.
He signed like 38 guys 1 year or whatever, and he figures, okay, well, the guys that qualify will take the guys that don't. We'll place them within the state, and then we'll track them. We'll track their progress, and then we'll recoup them on the other side. It was a great attempt.
And that caused the Big Ten fans to go with. Remember the oversigning?
Oh
saga?
Yeah,
the Big Ten people saw that. They said 39 guys, and they just completely ignored what Houston was doing. Completely ignored it. Just that's not. So I remember I was in the thick of recruiting back then, and that was the biggest nothing burger controversy I've ever seen in my life. But it caused rules, and it actually hurt the SEC eventually. Because the SEC had a hard and fast cap, the Big Ten had a little wiggle room.
Yeah,
and so it ended up. I guess because they were just kind of embarrassed by it, Because back then, if you signed 39 guys, man, I mean,
well, before the SEC had that cap, you could oversign, but once you got into August, you had to be at your number. Yeah. A lot of people didn't understand that grace period between because they're going to oversign, and if a guy doesn't make it, they ditch him. If a guy doesn't make him, they place him at prep school or junior college. And by the time they get to August and who they have enrolled, it all worked out. And then everybody got wind of that and said, okay, we're not having open tryouts here on signing day. That's exactly what it turned into.
That's crazy.
It's you just got me thinking about this, and I don't follow recruiting to the level that you guys do, but does anybody sign JUCO kids anymore?
We ran the very first year of the transfer portal being in full effect. Okay. We went back and we looked, okay. And this was when there was one signing period. How many junior college guys signed in this particular year? I can't remember exactly what the year was, but it ended up being something like 306, somewhere in that neighborhood nationally. The following year, it was barely over 100.
Wow.
So it's been impacted, but now you've got the new eligibility rule and the whole when does your clock start, and if you play at the junior college level, does it count towards your overall eligibility and all those sorts of things.
But like the portal has killed that. The portal has killed Group 5 juggernauts because they can't retain their roster because they're all going to.
Neither can the FCS schools.
Well, yeah, without question. The fact that Ashton Genty actually stayed an extra year at Boise is a miracle. I don't think we ever see that again.
Well, but sorry.
Yeah, no,
with FCS, if you notice, and part of it's because a lot of the schools like App and Georgia Southern all chased, I call it chasing the Camellia Bowl because they were winning the national championship. And then now they're like, okay, let's get to Montgomery or Mobile, baby. But the power center of FCS football is in like Montana and North of the Dakotas, like that part of the country, not exactly known for putting out football talent, right?
Well, not developed football talent.
Right.
What they've done is they've gone and identified the guys, and for the most part, in a little bubble with nobody to interfere with it. And then all of a sudden, if that guy becomes a redshirt junior or what have you, and he's out there now there's some risk that he could be gone. But you're right. There's plenty of players. They're just not play right away players, because if they were, they would have gone to Wisconsin or Minnesota or somewhere else.
They do a heck of a job there, man. I mean, it's.
Have you guys ever been to a game at Montana?
No.
No, my friend went out there when they played. Was it Montana? Yeah, played Furman last year.
Dude, it is the LSU. Imagine an LSU game day environment for a night game in Baton Rouge versus a ranked team. That's what Montana home games are like.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome.
Man.
Unbelievable.
The wife and I finally we went to Yellowstone this past summer. So we spent time in Montana and spent time in Wyoming and all that. It's fantastic. It's I can understand why now, because Montana's got a ton of people moving there.
Well, Montana and Idaho, because
Idaho,
living, yeah, no question. Yeah.
You know, it's just like if you didn't have the winters, those states you'd see mass migration to those states.
Oh, sure.
For all the reasons.
Here, like myself, you can deal with the winters.
Yeah, you can do that. I'm not wired for that. I mean, JC now is, because he's in Chicago. He's like Old Man River over there, Grizzly Adams.
Look at JC's background here. What is that, a grand piano?
I already
is Liberace coming over?
Hey, look, no, it's Liberace. I know. That's awesome. Billy Joel, Elton John, and Liberace.
Yeah, I mean, holy smokes! No. We're gonna call him Rocket Man from now on.
Nah, it's not even. That's just a photo. I didn't have a chance. My background that I have for this show had Rudy and Brutus Buckeye on it, and I was like, well, we're past that. And then I ran up against it today, and I was like, the other one's like a brick wall, and I look like Max Headroom when I put it up. So I just decided to go a little fancy today. You know,
so I like it. Fancy. You got some stone in there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, the curved architecture in the doorways.
Yeah. He'll be having a glass of rosé later on.
What about yours? What are you making breakfast behind your head?
This is, I usually do a background of like a stadium or something. You have all
the right moves sometimes.
I do have all. Oh, nice, good pull. Yes, that's a Ben Franklin. Forget about Dimer. But today I just decided to go old school, just natural kitchen background. Okay. Maybe I'll cook up an omelet for you guys later on in the segment. We'll see. You just never know what's going to happen.
I got to give you credit for your shirt too, Lugs. The Coors Banquet shirt with the
yeah.
You know who likes Coors Banquet? Steve Spurrier.
That's Americans.
Americans.
Yeah. But Coach Spurrier, they always talked about it when he was at South Carolina. Like, he's got that Coors Banquet after the game.
Oh yeah, Coors Banquet, baby.
So there you go.
Steve was a Coors guy. Steve was not. I did a coach's show with him years ago, and it was Blue Moon was his go-to on that.
Well, that's a Coors product. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, Coors makes Blue Moon.
And so many of the beers you think are from Mexico are made in America.
Yeah.
That's a whole other subject together. We'll get to the National Signing Day, because I know you've got to cover that today. We'll give you a plug for that for those that want to get the maximum out of that. Although, again,
what?
I know. Well, that's the key. I didn't want to steal your. I don't want to take.
Hey, I'm here in a hotel room in Bristol, Connecticut to cover what is essentially the extended verbal commitment portion.
Right. I think I've been in that same hotel room for various seminars. It's every bit as luxurious as I remembered it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to rain on your parade because you're going to do TV today and talk about this thing. But it so much of it now is people are more concerned about who did everybody get in the portal, and the actual big signing day was way back when in December. So like, how much meat is left on the bone?
Very little. Obviously North Carolina, because of the coaching change and Bill Belichick, they've got some work to do, and they've done a pretty nice job, retained the quarterbacks, added some offensive and defensive linemen. But really, I think it's more about FCS, Group of 5 schools that are rounding out their classes with the leftovers, if you will, to some degree. But what's happened, and it's really more about the initial signing period in December, is that it used to, as JC will tell you, when you signed the letter of intent, like, it meant something. It was a contract, and you were arriving on campus, and your next 3 to 5 years were going to be there unless something strange or weird happened and you decided you wanted to transfer. Okay. Well, now if you look at college football, guys, 50 to 60% of these kids that are signing won't even be with these teams within 18 months to 2 years.
Is that the raw number? Is that? Are you just spitballing?
It's close to that. The quarterbacks is over 60%.
Wow.
Over 60%. And so what we're looking at is something on paper, right? And it looks ideal. But now the question becomes, how do you keep everybody happy? And how do you retain everybody? You talk to coaches, it's identify, recruit, and retain. All right. Well, now you can identify. That's the easy part. You can recruit them like you always have. But it's the devil in the details, right? Because not everybody's playing with the same deck of cards now that we're in a pay-for-play model. And people say, no, we're not. It's name, image, and likeness. No, it is not. Name, image, and likeness is not what we are doing right now.
Right.
This is not name, image, and likeness. So the question is, who has the resources institutionally to maintain order with your high school recruiting classes that you signed? How many of them can you keep? How can you keep them all happy? How do you keep them all engaged? It's darn near impossible unless you could be at some of these programs that have, I don't want to say unlimited resources, but they've got the resources to compete against any wolves that might be coming in and tampering. Because at the end of the day, that's college football's biggest problem right now. You can name 10 different things, and I guarantee you, if tampering's not number one on the list, you're looking at it the wrong way. It's the single biggest problem in college football right now.
I think it's hard too. I mean, next to impossible, like you said, Lugs, because somebody needs to go look at Georgia's outbound portal classes the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thinks this is the Georgia Bulldogs. They're a great program. Thought Kirby did a great coaching job this year, by the way.
Sure.
As an aside, they recruit as good as anybody from the high school level, all that. I talked to somebody that's close to that program that's off the field that said, man, we may lose like 39 players because Georgia can't, they can't keep all these blue chippers happy. And there's two ways to make them happy: playing time or money. And it's unrealistic, even with the best. You could have the best rankings in recruiting ever. In this sport, it hits at about 600, batting 60%, even in the NFL.
Which means you're gonna miss if you hit on 60%, and let's just say you hypothetically signed a class of 25. That means going in, you're missing on 10 guys. Question is, which 10 guys are they?
Well, and then other guys take time. But if they're ranked high, even if they're ranked highly, they think they should be playing. And so there's some entitlement there. And then you throw the money into it. I almost would go look for in-state sleepers, guys that are kind of have an affinity for my program from that bottom third, instead of stacking all these blue chippers. You're like, you got a guy that like, look, in 2 years, this guy's 6'7", 260. He's a tackle. He plays basketball, averages 13 points, 10 rebounds a game in basketball. He's not going to be ready right now, but he's from Oconee County, Georgia. And he grew up Georgia. He loves Georgia.
And he's not going to leave.
He's not going to leave. And in 2 years, you're going to have a player that's just as good as going out to Arizona and signing the 5-star. That may be kind of the out of the box thinking that some of these staffs have to do. And your programs like Georgia and Alabama around the country, compared to, people don't understand this, compared to the Texas schools or compared to like Ohio State, they don't have the resources that those other schools have. You'd think in the SEC, everybody's rich. They're not.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a challenge, because the assumption out there is it's Alabama football. They should be able to go get anybody they want. Not really. Not really. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds as far as roster construction.
The other thing in all of this, if you're looking at it from the player side, is I think the players are looking at it from the wrong perspective. I had a conversation with Kevin Steele when he was the defensive coordinator at Alabama 2 years ago. And I asked him, how is the portal impacting you guys? He goes, well, for us right now, for our group, it's not impacting our 1s and 2s. Our competitive depth, what's happening is our 3s and 4s that we didn't ever have to worry about, that we could bring along, we could develop, they would eventually play for us. Those kids are the ones that we have to worry about now, because they're going to get poached because they realize that maybe they're not good enough to play right now as a true freshman or a true sophomore or a redshirt freshman at Alabama. But if they go to school A, B, C, D, and E, they are. So if you're a player instead of going through the recruiting process and saying, okay, well, I've got offers from Georgia, Alabama, USC, Texas, what have you, and going to one of those schools, instead, why would you maybe then not go to NC State? Why would you maybe then not go to Baylor, all right? And now be that guy that plays right away and develops into a big-time player. Now you have the opportunity through the transfer portal to elevate and really make some money. It's almost as if they're doing it in the opposite thought process.
It's counterintuitive. These forces are working. Traditional recruiting and the way you did it is working. They're button heads. And you mentioned going to a Baylor, a place like that. One of two things is going to happen, Tom. Sorry,
I've been called worse.
Jake. We'll just call him Johnny from now on. But no, okay,
220, 221, whatever it takes.
Either you're going to be able to elevate to Ohio State or Texas or a place like that for Baylor, or Baylor is going to see your value as one of their top 10 on their roster higher, and they're going to take a bigger chunk of rev share, NIL, what have you,
and give it
and
to
pay you to stay.
Yeah.
So financially, to me, that makes all the sense in the world, and it also almost, as we always talk about NFLizing college.
Yeah.
That almost takes care of itself, because at that point, if players are making decisions like that, and it's going to take 10 years to do it, then parity starts being woven into the sport for the first time in its history.
Yeah.
Because you're spreading the baseline talent out. You're still going to have big programs that poach players and stuff like that. But I've learned this too in following all this. Although the transfer portal's busy and things of that nature, most kids don't want to move. They got girlfriends, social lives, all that. If all things are equal, I think still you can retain 60, 65%. And that's good enough, I think, to compete and have parity. Just my take on it.
Chris Kleiman at Kansas State does exactly what you just outlined. They focus all of their NIL in-house first, by rewarding those who have performed at a high level to retain that, those pillars and the core foundation, and then go out and supplement if they need to on the market. And I think it's a great way of doing business. It rewards the guys that have performed well for you. It allows you to engage with them and let them know that, hey, you're important to us. You don't need to go somewhere else. We can match that or what have you. And I just think it's a great approach.
So by the way,
Clemson also does that. Clemson, that's Dabo. Everybody thinks
smart.
But they take care of their guys first and foremost. So, yeah.
Parenthetically, this is the best audio you've ever sounded. So we need to put you in that hotel more often, Luke's, because last time you were terrific, but your audio was
really
up. Yes. And so today you sound crystal clear and beautiful and fantastic.
It's beautiful.
So with all that being said about the moving parts, the portal, and I know what you're talking about, tampering. I've actually ran into a couple guys this year, like literally on the sideline of major games. And I was like, what? I was introduced to one of them, like, what do you do exactly? And he's like, well, I represent players. He didn't use the term agent.
Yeah.
So what are you doing here? And it was a key SEC game. I'll leave it at that. And he said, well, I'm looking at a couple guys and they're looking to relocate and I'm going to facilitate that. Like, that's what, so technically the coach can't tamper and call the player directly, but what they're all doing is going through a third party, and that third party, his job, he's like a broker. It's like, okay, I'm going to get you from school X to school Y for an extra $250 a year. Yeah. And then they take a cut. Obviously, there's always going to be some skin in the game for them to do all this. And these are just like 28-year-old guys.
These aren't agents. These aren't registered attorneys. These aren't registered with any board that you would have if in any professional sport representing a player through a collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
The whole thing is so despicable in terms of what we've turned into here. And it's like, I think I said this to you guys before. Can you imagine if the NFL was run like college football right now, it would come crumbling down within 6 months.
Would not last.
It's not sustainable.
Well, that was always the laughable thing of, again, JC and I talk about this all the time. Like, there's some people that truly love college football, as the three of us do, and want the health of the sport to maintain its best optimal health and sustainability. There's others that are like, man, players just got a raw deal and F the system and I just want to see the players get more money and the coaches get too much money. They don't give a what about the health of the sport or being sustainable. They just look at college football players being victims of a grander scheme. And it's like that's their whole political viewpoint, and they disseminate that and put it through the lens of everything goes through that lens. They could give a crap less about this thing being sustainable, which it's not. You talk to every coach, and they all tell you the same thing. Yeah. This is ridiculous. It doesn't work, and it would never run the NFL like this.
Yeah, you never run any business like
any
this.
Business, of course not. No. So clearly, stuff has to be done, and we'll see if it can be done. I know they keep making strides. Again, I don't want to get too bogged down on that because it frustrates the hell out of me.
I got a good rule of thumb for all players listening out there as far as how to pick your agent. Because there's a handful, some of the legitimate agencies have gotten involved. And those are generally, I've dealt with some of those people with NIL, and they're actually good people. They're actually fair. They understand market value, things like that. So if you go to their social media and you've never heard of them before, and their agency sounds like they found the first GoDaddy web address that sounded cool and bought it and put up a blog, and they have a picture of themselves in front of a private jet looking at their cell phone, stay away from that guy.
That's a good rule of thumb in general.
These dudes will do that. They're like standing in front of a private jet, like, with their earpiece in, and you're like, that guy's a complete loser. Don't go with that guy. You know,
they're all want to
he's
be
taking 30%.
They're all want to be Drew Rosenhauses and kind of have that look and image of we're just making it rain over here. That's what we do. So with all the changes and every other moving part, at the beginning of the playoff, I picked Ohio State, not because I'm some wizard of football knowledge. I just looked at a team that after they spit the bit against Michigan, whatever they needed to do, they righted the wrongs, they exercised the demons, and I just would, I didn't bet on it, but if I would just put my money on, clearly to me, what was the most talented team. And they were the most talented team, and then they showed it. I don't know why they didn't play like it on a couple of Saturdays, but eventually talent ruled the roost.
Yeah.
We all knew about that $20 million prize. I mean, they bragged about it. They didn't hide from it. It was a flex. Look at how much money we spent on this roster. This is the new Ohio State. So how much has things really changed then if it's going to be like, I realize the most talented team doesn't always win.
Right.
It certainly doesn't in basketball and baseball, but in football, if you've got the most talented team, I like your chances. Yeah. I liked 2019 LSU's chances. I liked 21-22 Georgia's chances. I liked last year's Michigan team. I like their chances. So are we really going to change much where it's just going to be the team that, if they're smart with their money, spends the most money, gets the most talent, and wins the most championships? Tell everybody how it's not going to be that predictable and that confined to just a few programs that have the means to do it.
Well, I go back to what Nick Saban said on his very first College Game Day show in Ireland to start off the season this past fall, when he was talking about this very topic and paying players and putting together a roster to make a championship run. And he said, you can pay all the money you want to all the players you want. But if you pay the wrong ones, you're SOL.
Right.
So that's where you've got to give credit to Ohio State and the decisions they made and who they targeted, because those guys had a collective goal in mind, and that was for a national championship. And if you're going to push your chips to the center of the table, we're going to bring all of these components together. There has to be one common vision and goal, which is extremely difficult to do, more so now than ever before, because we're in this me, I era of what can this do for me? How much money can I make? Nobody cares about the team anymore. It's not important to the team. A guy comes in and he transfers in July, like Matt Sluka at UNLV, and he decides he's just going to up and walk away. You talk about paying the wrong guy. I mean, give me a break, right? So the question is, what is the probability that you can do that every year and not screw it up? Right? Because you're going to miss on a personality here, right? You're going to have some selfishness in this spot. You're going to have a guy get hurt that, and with Ohio State, everything kind of came to fruition at the right time. They got hot at the time they needed to. They gelled together. They had unselfish people. And when you talk about a guy like Caleb Downs wants to win. He loves football, right? And so I think that's where Ohio State deserves a lot of credit. I don't know if teams can consistently do that every year without having a miss, on a guy or two that could have a significant impact on whether or not you pull it off. So it does become about prior relationships that you've had with a player that you're targeting in the portal, so that you have a background with that kid, that your probability that he's going to pan out is really, really high because you have an intimate relationship going back to maybe when he was a sophomore in high school. I think where the mistakes will get made is when people try to go out and get what they turn to be high-profile guys or somebody that's out on the market, and they don't know them. They don't know their representation. They don't know their family. They don't know their history. Maybe they don't know the kid well enough, and then that backfires on them. And that's the thing that worries me when you're putting together a roster this way, because every coach I talk to will tell you they want the core foundation of their roster to be high school based. They don't want it to be portal based. But those days are becoming few and far between, and you have to supplement now in some areas. And it doesn't have to be with 10 to 20 guys. It could be with 5 guys. It could be with 7 guys. Look what Clemson's done in this cycle. They decided to target a handful of guys that are what I call OKGs, our kind of guys, right? And he's not going to bring in what he would term to be a poisonous element, because he doesn't want that foundation, which is high school based, to be infected. And I think most coaches would tell you that.
But
you
have
to wonder what happened when we talk about what happened in Tallahassee this past year. You have to wonder about that. I mean, I know there were quarterback issues, but
they did that to themselves, though, because how could you bring in DJ Uiagalelei with his sample size of production or lack thereof and think that he was going to be your answer?
But you know what happened there, Lugs? They missed out on Cam Ward. They got outbid, simply put. They knew Cam Ward was a better player. Anybody, we could get somebody in middle school right now
to
how evaluate
about Diego Pavia? How about Curtis Rourke? How about a lot of these guys?
No, but those are less
productive.
It's a huge. I mean, they made mistakes, and on paper, everybody was praising that portal class.
DJ's a 57% completion rate guy.
Yeah,
57% in today's college football game. I'm sorry, man. You're not an accurate player.
From what I was told, they really thought they were going to get Cam Ward, and then when they didn't, when Miami's sugar daddy or whichever, I don't know, one of them's behind bars. I don't know how they did it, but once that happened, it was like, oh crap, now what? And I mean, like, we can all look at Diego Pavia now. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I knew a 5'11" kid from New Mexico State was going to become one of the biggest stories in college football this year. Or the Rourke kid, who I think was from Canada originally, right?
From Canada, but he was remarkably productive at Ohio.
Really right at Ohio. And you and I have done several MAC games. We're team action.
Yeah.
But what these coaches want, the big time programs, they don't want to take a little bit of a gamble on that guy from a smaller school. They want the shiny toy. I mean, even Ohio State. I mean, he wasn't the sexiest quarterback, but he's a guy that did it at a Power 4 school
and was productive.
And was very productive, right? And obviously it was a win. And so these programs are going to go after. I think the day and age, we may never see a national championship team win with like a freshman quarterback again, because coaches want the shortcut, at least at that position. They could say they want to develop and they want their own, and part of that's true, but what they really want is a guy that they know is a proven commodity under center, that gives that they don't have to sit there and teach on the job, right?
Sure. I mean, the portal quarterback, or the transfer quarterback phenomenon, I guess it's a phenomenon, it's kind of started before the portal even. With you look at all, like Kyler Murray going, and Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Lincoln Riley was kind of the Pied Piper. Joe Burrow winning winning the national championship like he did. People forget he was at Ohio State. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. I can't rule it out that his freshman quarterback won't be good enough to do it at some point. But Mike's right. They seem to be kind of going for the chip shot there.
Well, they want guys that have played. They want guys that have played, and if they've watched them play. But I think there's a difference between having played and then having played consistently well. Right. That's where I think Florida State got it wrong. Now, in defense to some degree of DJ Uiagalelei with the Florida State situation is the timing of it was horrible because every single transfer portal player they had on that roster that led them to an undefeated regular season in 2023 all left at the same time.
Right.
So Jaheim Bell, Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse. I mean, I could go on and on and on. They all left at the same time.
Yep.
All of them. So that wasn't the perfect recipe for success for a guy like DJ.
No, without question. He's Tom Luginbill with ESPN, now at a random hotel in Bristol, getting ready to cover the second National Signing Day. Overall takeaway from the playoff. Good, bad, and different? What do you think?
Listen, I liked it. I enjoyed it. Does there need to be tweaks? Yes, because I think we need to start seeding 1 through 12, best to worst. I do not believe that a Boise State or an Arizona State should have gotten a first round bye.
Agreed.
And if you seeded, top to bottom, you would avoid that. I don't think that any type of playoff format going forward is one where you'd want to see a team that's earned a bye have to play in Oregon, have to play Ohio State in their first game. Like that, that's not how that's supposed to work either. That doesn't work. That doesn't happen in the NFL. And so I think that it's going to be interesting to see what direction they take this in. But listen, everybody talked about the blowouts in that opening week, right? People have a short memory of the college football playoffs.
I know.
Every semifinal game outside of a handful for the entirety of its duration of a 14 playoff was a blowout. What did you think was going to happen when you added less talented teams?
Right. And many BCS title games were blowouts when it was 1 versus 2 in quotation marks.
Exactly. So I think it'll all work itself out. I do find it interesting now how commissioners and conferences are trying to figure out how to avoid having their best team play in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that when we talk about seeding, that eventually, not that we diminish the regular season or that we don't give it credence, but the committee eventually saying, hey, listen, if you won your championship, great. If you played in the championship game and you lost it, fine. If you finished third, okay. And that's that. But we're going to take what we think are the best 12 teams, 1 through 12 right now, and not allow for an earned bye due to conference affiliation or conference championship. I think that's the direction we might be going towards.
The obligatory State of the Union ACC question, now more than ever that you're on the ACC primetime game of the week. They just extended with our employer, which I would have to say overall is a win. However, if you look at the TV revenue, what the SEC and Big Ten are making compared to the ACC, and I'll throw the Big 12 out there as well.
Too. Yeah.
There's still a major gap. So a year ago when we had this conversation, part of the big storyline was Florida State and Clemson hiring every lawyer imaginable to get out of the league and to get out of the contract, and that clearly went nowhere. And now here we are, and some of the same concerns are still there. So you're around that league as much as anybody now. What are people saying about how they feel about the overall structure in place with the ACC in contrast to the Big Two?
Well, it's been relatively quiet, but it's the same issues that we've been talking about the last couple of years, right? You just outlined it. when it comes to revenue share and the piece of the pie. I know that there's been some discussions, I believe, about tipping the scales to the most successful programs or the brands within the conference as it comes to revenue distribution to make it more attractive for teams to want to, stay within the confines of the conference and then create a competitive, I guess you could say a competitive balance top to bottom. The better you get, the more money you make. I mean, that type of scenario, if you get into a kind of a capitalistic view of it. But I don't know what the answer is to close that gap necessarily. And is it at the end of the day, doesn't it kind of come down to performance, right? As with everything. I mean, you could make the argument that while the Big Ten makes more money per university in their revenue share, the conference top to bottom outside of 2 or 3 teams was really down. Like the Big Ten was, Wisconsin was disappointing. Michigan State was down. Michigan was disappointing. You can kind of, Iowa did what Iowa does, but
Southern Cal.
Yeah. Southern Cal was
Washington went backward.
Yeah. And so I think that can be cyclical sometimes. But my point being is if your teams start playing better and you start being more competitive and you're winning your out of conference matchups and you're beating teams that are ranked at the time that you play them, then you're going to enhance the value of your conference. Now, what that means contractually and whether that leads to a renegotiation, I don't know.
The SEC needs they need to end what I call the Duke Wake Forest rebellion. Mm-hmm. If you look at the past 10 or so years, Clemson's dominated the league or whatever, but Duke and Wake Forest have had. We are in the glory years. What Duke was good in the 30s, but we're in the glory years of those two programs.
You're saying for football?
For football, yeah. They need to stamp that out because there's really no reason why North Carolina shouldn't be good at football, or Virginia, which we've seen, or Virginia Tech, or Miami.
You're right.
Georgia Tech should be good in the ACC. Louisville already is. I think SMU is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
They got more money than all of them,
and the recruiting base. Even the West Coast guys, Cal and Stanford. Stanford's got a really great winning tradition. The ACC, they have not been able to put it on since Miami came into the league. And remember, this is a league that moved their conference championship games to Florida and put the Canes and Knowles. And I'm thinking they were going to get that matchup every year. They ended up with Virginia Tech, Boston College 2 years in a row, and Georgia Tech, Wake Forest in the 2000s. And that bad boy went back to Charlotte, right? But Pitt has been good through the years. There's all these. Syracuse has Jim Brown and Donovan McNabb played there. These schools there have a chance. They just don't like vast swaths of them are down at the same time. And then some of the schools that don't really have their tradition end up benefiting from that. And you have this weird league that looks weak outside of a couple of teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's really not. You just outlined it. There's good football being played. I think there's a ton of parity. And I think, as with anything, if you hit on a quarterback, it gives you a chance to be pretty successful. We saw that with Syracuse. We saw that until they got banged up and injured early on with Pitt. And so, but when you don't and it backfires on you, then it affects your entire football team. The job that Dave Clawson did at Wake Forest is probably a job that can never be done again if we maintain this current era of college football that we're in. And he was unapologetic about it when he had his exit press conference. He goes, "We can't compete in this landscape. It's not sustainable for us if we're expected to go and win this many games or compete at this level, but we can't keep our players and we're a developmental program and we identify them and we recruit them and we develop them, they become somebody and then they leave. How are we supposed to sustain that?" And he's not wrong, right? Gus Malzahn, I guarantee you, is saying the exact same thing at UCF. Chip Kelly, the exact same thing at UCLA. And a lot of it is institutionally based. You talked about Stanford and Duke. Duke, if you maintain a 3.0 or you've earned your degree, they'll take an incoming transfer. Stanford will not do that.
Oh, interesting.
So Troy Taylor at Stanford has remarkable challenges in front of him because he doesn't get to just go out and get into the landscape like everybody else. Yet at the same time, he's expected to compete, right? Well, those two things don't mix. And but you're right. Miami, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, NC State. Those are programs that you should be sitting there saying, all right, 9-10 win teams every single year. Because if you've already got Duke doing it, and you just had Syracuse doing it, and maybe Boston College once every 4 years or so is capable of doing it, then you have to be able to depend on those other quote unquote blue blood type programs. Not all of them, but ones that have proven that they can get there. They have to do it every year.
They need to be up, and all that. So, that's crazy. A couple of things. Number one, Troy Taylor. Remember Street and Smith's magazine back in the day?
Yeah,
Cal quarterback.
Cal, I didn't. It was. I thought he did a great job at Sacramento State.
Unbelievable job.
Thought it was a good hire. It was also me that it was that Troy Taylor that played quarterback, because I remember he was a little Heisman list and all that. Number two, the ACC, you mentioned quarterbacks. In 2016, I thought that was the best year of that league in the last 10 years. You had Deshaun Watson, Mitch Trubisky. You had the kid at Virginia Tech, Jared Evans, Lamar Jackson, the Heisman winner, Nathan Peterman at Pitt. Daniel Jones was at Duke at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the quarterbacks in that league that year, and they won it all. Meanwhile, in the SEC, Jalen Hurts started as a true freshman. There were two more true freshmen, and then two transfers from Purdue starting at LSU and I think Florida, respectively. Down year in that league. Auburn went to the Sugar Bowl with a 4-loss team, but that was the last time I saw it happen. I want to ask you this, Luke. All right, so I'm looking, and I think I know the answer to this because I've got y'all's prospect rankings up. Keelan Russell or Bryce Underwood? I know they're not identical quarterback, different styles, but give me your breakdown in comparison of those two. For those that don't know, Keelan Russell's 5-star quarterback going to Alabama, flipped from SMU, and then Bryce Underwood actually flipped from LSU to Michigan and was the player that the Ellis, I guess it's Ellison spouse. They put together quite an NIL package for him. Just compare those two for me, because man, I think that's an interesting debate, and I wonder how good they are. I wonder what the weakness. I mean, it's a fascinating pair of quarterbacks there at the top of the rankings.
It's very similar to when Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields came out in the same class, right? They both have their physical attributes. They're both extremely gifted, God-given ability. I would say with Bryce Underwood, he is a very uniquely gifted physical athlete in terms of whether you're looking at athleticism, raw power, arm talent, the ability to change arm angles, the ability to drive the ball vertically, like all of the things physically that you want to say, hey, let's check this box, you're going to get with Bryce Underwood. I think with Keelan Russell, you have a little bit more of a polished player coming out, played at the highest level, very successfully, I might add, at Duncanville High School in the state of Texas. And I think when guys are unbelievably talented, I think at the end of the day, what it will come down to is their work habits and whether or not they love football, because their physical attributes are only going to take them so far. So I'll give you a prime example. We're down at the Under Armour game this year, and Keelan Russell is, and I'm not knocking Bryce Underwood here, because Bryce Underwood actually happened to be at his practice with Michigan getting ready for the Citrus Bowl this same week. So he didn't participate with us. But Keelan was one of those guys, because we get into the meetings with the coaching staffs each and every day at the end of the day to kind of get a breakdown of what'd you see from your kids, good, bad, the ugly, all of it. And the thing about Keelan Russell we discovered very, very quickly is he is a huge student of the game. He had a stacked booklet of just nothing but writing notes and learning and understanding, and would be in the room watching film in the morning before. This isn't an all-star game. This doesn't matter, right? I mean, but the work habits and the attention to detail when it comes to theory of the game and knowledge of the game, I think is something that Keelan Russell really has in his favor. I also think he's very reminiscent of a right-handed version of Michael Penix. And if you're going to take that type of skill set and put it in Kalen DeBoer's offense, I think we've already seen those results, right? And so what's going to be interesting to me is Does Bryce Underwood's upside and ceiling and physical attributes trump Fresno State transfer Mikey Keene's experience? Right? Meaning that you kind of get it near the end of camp and you say, guys, this guy's so talented, we can't keep him off the field. Or this guy's really, really talented, but I don't know if we want to throw him to the wolves just yet. Let's start the other kid now and then see how the whole thing materializes. And the same thing could happen with Keelan Russell, with Ty Simpson and Austin, the other kid that transferred from Washington. Yeah. So he's going to be in the same boat, And so what I'm getting at is how ready are both of those guys? Because we ever had this conversation about Arch Manning. Best thing that ever I'm telling you, the best thing that's ever happened to Arch Manning is the process by which they took for him to get on the field, because it's going to make him such a better football player. And I wish more freshmen would take the same path.
I have a little hot take. I think Russell will be starting at Alabama by October, and that has more to do with what they've got than anything else. And like you said, I thought he was a heck of a fit for what DeBoer.
Oh, for what they do.
And now Ryan Grubb obviously is coming in to run it again. So that's been my hot take of the offseason, is that I think Russell will start for them.
Who's the best quarterback in college football in 2025?
Boy, you just put me on the spot.
That's what I do. You know that, Lugs. This is the hot seat, man.
You know who it might be when it's all said and done? DJ Lagway.
Think so?
All I know is that dude.
He's got talent around him now.
He's got and he's older. He's more mature. He never thought about wavering or leaving. Clearly, there's a belief in Billy Napier and Florida and his teammates. And some of the stuff he did down the stretch, dude, like, would you have wanted to play Florida in the last 3 weeks of the season? Hell no.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, that team, you're like, whoa, hold on a second. I think he's in the conversation because of the ceiling. His ceiling is just so ridiculously high, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Garrett Nussmeier, while he doesn't have the same ceiling, he has that Baker Mayfield riverboat gambler gunslinging mentality. I love that. I gravitate towards that. I really do. I'll tell you who one of the best young quarterbacks in college football is, and he had a really good year under very intense circumstances, is C.J. Bailey at NC State. What he was tasked with, the injuries around him, has to make his first start on the road at Clemson. And if you watched him mature, you're like, okay, this guy's a dude. Now, I'm going to bring you one last one. And he doesn't get the notoriety that he should. But if you haven't watched Kevin Jennings play at SMU, that guy is a straight up baller. He just gets it done. As a runner, as a passer, like the whole 9 yards. I think what he did on the field is going to lead to a good offseason for him, and it will have much more notoriety coming this August.
Yeah, I mean, he's the biggest reason why SMU got to the playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. When they made that change after the BYU loss,
and
then next thing you know, I mean, he's really, really good. Best back shoulder thrower of any quarterback I saw this year.
Which is a great route to run. Almost impossible for a DB to cover.
Is going to happen. It's either going to be a catch, an incompletion, or a defensive pass interference. So nothing's bad.
Exactly. All right, let's have a little bit of fun on the way out, and then we'll let you get back to putting on makeup and talking about what's left in the realm of recruiting. Five or Dimer is back, baby. People have been saying, "Where's the Five or Dimer?" It's hard for us to squeeze this in during the regular season, but we can do it in the off season. I've got 3, and then you, being the astute guest that you are, you said, "Hey, Mike, I don't just come here for a free lunch. I got my own 3 I'm adding to the equation." Right. That's why we love Luke's. All right, let's start with the 3
I didn't get a heads up on Luke's 3. I mean,
I just got it this morning.
He texted me, so I texted him back. Got to put you on the text.
We don't prep for these. You want just top of the cuff reaction, okay?
Right. Save it for the air.
Yes, I like the natural JC reaction on all of these. And I can tell you right now, one of yours, Luke's, I never even saw. But that's okay. That's why it would be the neither category. All right, I'm coming off the top rope. Carlito's Way.
Neither.
Whoa!
Neither.
What? You didn't like it?
Thought it was woefully disappointing.
Oh, my goodness.
I love the concept of it. I remember when it came out.
Goodness.
I remember seeing the previews and the trailers going, wow, this is going to be really good. And maybe it was because, Goodfellas had already happened and you had that Goodfellas way. But if you told me that I had to choose between Donnie Brasco and Carlito's Way, it's not even close.
Well, I love both. Yeah, I mean, if you're saying, if you want me to, I mean, I love Donnie Brasco. We'll do that on another episode.
So 5, seen it 5 times, 10 is 10 or more.
Right.
I would literally have to say 1. I've seen that one time.
Okay, so that was a one and done. You hit it and quit.
One and done.
Hit it, JC?
I've never seen it. Although I had a big crush on Penelope Ann Miller back in the day.
Oh, yeah, from Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop. I was about to say that, dude. She was hot in Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
Just not a Tuma.
All right, you guys are killing me.
She was in something recently, too, as an older lady.
Yeah, she played Nancy Reagan in the Reagan movie.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, that was her?
Yeah.
I saw that. I didn't even know that. Okay.
Nancy Reagan.
Okay, you guys are killing me. I mean, Carlito's Way is a dimer. It's Pacino, peak Penn, who is a whack job in real life, but you can't deny the fact that he's got acting chops beyond belief. Yeah. I mean, you don't even recognize him. Yeah. He plays like this balding lawyer, curly hair. Yeah, but he's so good in that. Leguizamo plays Benny Blanco from the Bronx.
Better than you actually like the movie.
Well, yeah. I'm not going to say it's the best plot in the world. You know, the guy that did it's the same guy that did Scarface.
Yeah, the Michael Mann, right? Or no. Brian De Palma.
Brian De Palma.
De Palma, yeah.
That's right.
No. But no, I mean, shoot. Carlito's Way. That's a dimer to me. All right.
When you got Luis Guzman and
Luis Guzman, yes.
Luis Guzman, funniest role ever was in this movie called Waiting.
Dude, first of all, Waiting is one of my top 5 comedies of all time.
Amazing. The goat. We can't do the goat here.
Oh, the bat.
The other guy.
He's pretty good in Boogie Nights too. Jack, man, what am I talking about?
One of the best character actors ever.
I love that guy.
Guzman's great and everything. All right, so we differ all across the board. One no C, one and done. It's a dimer for me. If it's on cable, like in a few hours, and I come across it on the remote, it's locked. It's absolutely locked. All right, The Town.
Oh, that's a dimer, without question.
Dimer?
Without question. And also may have the greatest scripted lines between 2 actors of all time. When Ben Affleck walks in to Jeremy Renner, and I'm paraphrasing, says, I need your help. We're going to go hurt some people.
Yeah.
Don't ask me who, don't ask me why. And then Jeremy Renner goes, whose car are we taking?
Yeah.
Renner's
great. I mean, Renner steals that film to me.
So good.
I tolerate Ben Affleck in that film. I love Renner in that film. And Affleck's the only guy that's from Boston that can actually do an awful Boston accent, which is part of the reason why it's just a 5er for me and not a dimer. It wants to be Heat, which I think we all agree is with Ben Franklin. I don't think it's quite in that category. JC, what say you?
Ben Franklin, it's one of my favorite movies. But you both made excellent points that I was in my head. It's beautifully written. I think Affleck wrote it. Like even the lines, like the callback at the end when he's talking to his dad with Chris Cooper. Chris Cooper has like a cameo in it, and the guy that played
great actor,
the guy from The Usual Suspects, who we all thought was Kaiser Soze.
Right.
Yeah.
He's in it as like
flower shop guy,
the florist. Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's really good. But when he's like, I'll see you again this life or the other. And then at the end,
your daddy,
he sends that girl and stuff like that. But I think it's beautifully written. I do think, Mike, though, it may be Heat with a happier ending. Because at the end of Heat, De Niro's character dies, and
which is beautiful. Poetry.
I'm spoiling this for our audience, but if you haven't seen these 2 movies, then there's no hope. So I think both of them are good, but it is kind of a similar plot.
Did you know that in Heat?
Yeah,
you probably do know this, that not one time in that movie are De Niro and Pacino in the same scene where they're both facing the camera.
Correct. I did know that. Yes. Yeah. There's not much I don't know about the movie Heat. Yes.
All right, move on to your next one.
I have a movie poster of Heat, as JC has seen, to give you an idea how much I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Okay, so we are now disagreeing on everything. We're going back old school here. Kramer versus Kramer.
God, dude, that's a neither for me.
Hoffman
I was
and
too young.
Meryl Streep.
Saw it one time.
I know, but you have cable.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, God, I haven't seen that on cable in forever, or DirecTV or whatever it is.
That's okay. Look, we're not. It's
I thought it was a good. Even as a kid, I thought it was a good movie.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
it
was the first movie.
Kramer versus Kramer came out like when Sophie's Choice came out, and
Yeah,
it was all around the same time. Yeah.
It's the first movie, and I saw it as a kid as well. But I just admire great performances. Hoffman and Streep in that movie are freaking phenomenal. This movie is so basic. Like, there's basically like 5 people in the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's those two. It's the little kid who was nominated for an Oscar, who was also, by the way, the little brat kid in 16 Candles, Molly Ringwald's brother. And it's the attorney, the attorneys, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no bells and whistles to this movie. It's just great acting. And it's the first movie to deal with divorce and child custody. And if you've either been through that or you know how you have friends that have been through that and you feel their pain, and this movie deals with it, I thought about as well as it could. So for me, it's a dimer, JC.
How is it a dimer if you're not even old enough for it
I've
to be
seen
a dimer?
it once.
You haven't been around enough years.
I wasn't born when The Godfather was made. Does that not make it a dimer?
But you're comparing Kramer versus The Godfather?
No, I'm not doing that. But like Jaws, you and I were infants when Jaws was made. That's like Ben Franklin on steroids, right?
Absolutely.
I've seen Kramer versus Kramer once when I was 5 years old.
Me too.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. I'm alone on that's okay. I'm alone, man. I'm okay with this.
2.5 when it came out.
All right.
I don't know if my mom was trying to tell me something and foreshadow then, but she made me watch it one day. That, and we watched The Parent Trap right after that too. That was weird.
I think your mom was sending a lot of messages.
She was trying to kind of communicate with me.
Yes, she was giving you a message. All right. Gone. Now we go to the Lugs 3 in closing. Gone, Baby, Gone. This was a one and done for me. Hit it and quit it.
What?
This is with Affleck and
so I put this on the list specifically because it's the very first movie that Ben Affleck directed. And if you have looked at the movies he's directed, he ain't made a bad movie. Argo.
Argo is good, other than the fact that the complete revisionist of history. If you watch Argo, you would think Jimmy Carter was the hero of the movie.
I know, but it's a great movie. It's a great movie.
It is. I like Argo.
Like,
I like
as a
Argo.
Director, he is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I put that one in there because a lot of people don't even know about that movie. It's really good.
People know Argo was nominated.
No, not Argo. Gone,
Baby, Gone.
Yeah.
No, I saw it in the theater. It in the theater, and like anybody who's ever dated a crazy person, I mean, you can't help. It's almost like the modern day Fatal Attraction in some ways. Yeah. I'm not going to be ignored, Dan.
So it's neither for you.
It's a one and done for me.
Okay,
I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not something I'd want to rewatch.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
JC?
Unmute myself here. It's a 5er for me. I thought it was a heck of a movie.
It is.
I think you're confusing it with Gone Girl, Mike, too.
Oh, I am confused.
Gone Baby Gone's about an abduction.
You're confusing with Gone Girl.
I'm sorry.
Now, Gone Girl is a guide to dating when you're in your 30s.
That's Gone Girl. Okay, so already.
Ben's not actually in it. He just directed it.
No. Okay, I'm thinking of Gone Girl, which Ben stars in.
Yeah.
This has Morgan Freeman, Michelle Monaghan, Ed freaking Harris is in it.
And Ed Harris is awesome.
Casey Affleck is in it too. Ed Harris is the man.
Okay, so forgive me. Thank you, JC, for picking up on that.
Thank you, JC.
I have not seen this.
Oh, wow.
So I have not. No, because that cast, I would remember this. I did not see Gone.
You got to pick it up sometime.
Dude, you got to pick it up tonight.
How long ago did this come out?
Sit down.
07.
Yeah, it was his first ever directorial debut.
I saw it in the movies. It was good.
Okay,
it's really good.
I apologize. I'm not qualified to answer this. I've got the wrong movie. I think it's a first on Fiverr Timer.
All right, here's my second one.
All right,
and I'm a big Christopher Nolan guy.
Yeah,
The Prestige.
I didn't see it.
Oh
I just wrote it down. I'm going to watch
Christian
it.
Bale, Hugh
Love him.
Jackman,
Good.
Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall. Okay.
What is the plot?
And Michael Caine.
Michael Caine?
Dude, just go watch
Michael Caine.
Prestige. But here's what I have to tell both of you. Don't get distracted. Don't get drunk. Don't step up and walk into the kitchen and do something. You have to. It's a lot like The Usual Suspects in the sense that you have to pay attention.
Yeah. It's a period piece too. So I kind of avoid, for some reason, and I majored in theater in college. I have no idea why I do this, but anything like it was set in the 1890s. It's based on
it's a movie about magicians.
Yes.
But there's a whole nother 2 to 3 layers in the whole thing, and that's why you got to pay attention. Have you seen it, JC, or no?
No, I wrote it down to watch it because I saw the previews, and magicians and the fact it was a period piece kind of turned me off.
It's fantastic, but you got to pay attention. I want to report from both of you.
Wow,
this sounds like something that I should have watched.
It sounds to me, Lugs, like you're doing an intellectual flex here. Like JC and I are doing more superficial movies, and you're coming with period pieces and magicians, and you want everybody to know that you're a theater person. You're an avid reader and theater
mezzanine guy.
He's Luke is a good plot guy. He covered college football. Recruiting will do that to you. You have an appreciation for plot.
Yeah, if you want a story, you want to be kept guessing.
Yeah,
you want to be entertained. Prestige has all of that, and the acting and the story and everything's phenomenal.
Okay. All right.
Now I'm gonna give you an easy one. Here's my
this is a layup. Third one. All right. Now I don't. JC hasn't been prepped on this.
Go ahead.
You and I have been quoting this movie since we've known each other for 15 years or whatever. So okay, Mr. Mom, I know where you stand. I know where I stand. JC, where do you stand?
I haven't seen it probably since the 90s, but it's definitely a dimer. I mean, it was
absolutely
one of those movies that Michael Keaton, Terry. I used to have a crush on Terry Garr too.
Oh yeah, Martin Mull.
Until she hit until she had she was in Dumb and Dumber. By that point, I'd lost my attraction for her. But
Terry Garr was she wasn't in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, she was. She was the sister. Remember when she she set Harry up with Mary on the date to go skiing. And she was like, she needs to get out of the house. What do you say? Yeah, she was in Dumb and Dumber.
I forgot about that.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
she was Lauren Holly's sister in the movie, or sister-in-law, something like that. Yeah,
it's not her. As long as we had Lauren Holly, we were good.
Yeah, I didn't, but I've seen Dumb and Dumber probably 100 times. But that's But I remember when she was in Mr. Mom, I was like, that's a very attractive lady. I was hate,
I am so proud of myself today because I just gave you guys homework on 2 phenomenal movies.
I gladly accept your assignment. And Mr. Do I even have to say for me, Ben Franklin could rewrite the script if you want me to. I could quote the entire movie
on Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom, yeah, just freaking phenomenal. Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton and Tom Hanks were on a similar trajectory. They were both stand-ups. They got into acting. They started. They were taking whatever role. It'd be like, hey, here's a cameo on Alice or Happy Days, and then they started getting bigger and bigger roles, and became megastars. I would have put all my money on Keaton. Technically, Tom Hanks, Oscar Tom Hanks, would have finished with the better career by Prestige. But I loved me some Michael Keaton. Gung Ho, very underrated movie.
Gung Ho is fantastic.
Very underrated movie.
Yeah,
I mean, Michael Keaton. The Founder we've talked about. I mean, he's been good in just about everything. But Mr. Mom was his breakthrough.
Yeah,
that was
that or Night Shift. Night Shift might have been
Night Shift. Yes, Night Shift put him on the map.
Both directed by Ron Howard.
First R-rated movie I ever saw was Night Shift
on
HBO when I was
Fonzie.
Not nearly old enough to see it. Okay, I'll accept your homework assignment, Lugs, but I want you to give Carlito's Way another chance. I
will give it another view. In fact, you know what I might do? I might download it for my plane ride home on Thursday morning.
There you now see. It's it's all coming together, and we're all helping each other by doing that.
Exactly right.
All right, when are you on today? When can we see your shining face?
We're 2 to 2:30 today for College Football Live, and then we're, I think, 2 to 3 tomorrow on the actual signing day.
Is that E2 or E1?
I don't know.
Or EU?
I never care. I just kind of show up where they tell me to be, and
as I tell people, they all pay the same.
Hope the doors are unlocked and let me in.
Yes. Who? Craig Shurburtt, or who are you with?
Yeah, me, Craig, and Matt Schick.
And the Schickster. Okay.
Yep.
That'll be must-see TV. Lugs, we always love having you on. You always bring it. You come out of the pen. You're throwing 99, and you just keep gassing it. You're painting corners. You're getting guys out on the reg, and we thank you for it.
And my audio was good.
And your audio, without one time did we have to say, Lugs, could you get closer to the mic? Could you do this? Could you? You were terrific today. We got to put you in a 3-star Bristol hotel.
Progress.
Yeah. Awesome.
Enjoy that breakfast buffet in the morning.
Yeah, we'll do.
Try the hash browns. All right, Luke. Be well. Thank you. He's
Bye.
Tom Luginbill, everybody, joining us here on the show. And he's always great, isn't he? I mean,
love Tom.
He's
just fantastic.
He's the common college football fan in so many ways that just, and again, you guys cross paths for years on the national recruiting front. And then I got to call my first game with Lugs. My first year at ESPN was 2009, and we called a MAC game together. I think it was like a Miami of Ohio or Kent State or something, and just kind of stayed in touch ever since. And he's awesome.
09, 07, 08, 09 was kind of when I was working with him with recruiting at ESPN myself. It was one of the best professional experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
Was working when I worked for somebody, now I kind of do my own thing like many do, but working with him and ESPN and just kind of I don't know, maybe I'm kind of a little, because I wasn't a TV guy. It's like, well, I work for ESPN. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wore the jackets around and stuff. I was like, yeah, man, that's cool. But cool. He was always, he's one of those people that's like, extremely down to earth, nice, realistic, but also shares his opinion. And you always respect it, even if you don't always agree. He says it in such a way and backs it up that you know where he's coming from. And it was just always the most he mentioned Craig Shurburtt, who's one of my favorite people too, Billy Tucker, David Giesland, all those people I worked with in that little part of ESPN, which included, I never met Todd McShay, but that was that Scouts Inc. that was part of that. Now it's all like, I don't know what the setup is now, but working with those guys is one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I couldn't be happier, Mike, that he's now, I think he's probably past Brando. He's in first place for the number of times he's been against.
Yeah, I think so. Those two have been going neck and neck, and we'll have Timmy B on, I'm sure, this offseason, as well as a potpourri of great guests throughout the quote-unquote off-season. But as we say all the time, there is no off-season. As we get ready to close shop here, do want to remind everybody, MG&A Wealth, privately owned company since 1984, helping all of your family's financial portfolios. One simple phone call could be very good for you and your family's future. 954-289-9000, 954-289-9000. Check out the website, mgawealth.com. Again, not just your kind of jack-in-the-box financial brick and mortar store. These are locally owned and it's a locally owned and operated business that their success has just grown exponentially over the years with clients all over the United States. So no matter where you're listening to us, they can be terrific for you specifically. Tell them JC and Mike sent you. That's MG&A Wealth. That's Sean, 954-289-9000, mgawealth.com. Some final thoughts, JC, before we bid farewell?
Yeah, I had a JC5 ready to go today, but I don't know that it was my best one.
I think we can enhance it for next week, right?
Yes, I'll have to do that. Also, there's some new things that are going to be happening around JC and Morgan here in the coming months, and look for that, and it'll be pretty awesome.
I tell you what, the theme song that you came up with, I'm not kidding you.
It's a banger.
It's a banger but it's so good that there are days where it gets into my head and I can't get it out.
That happened to me this morning, and I feel arrogant, because it's like it's a song I wrote, but I didn't write the music, so it's not like I wrote this catchy tune, and and I did watch Steve Spurrier coach on the sidelines for 3 years at South Carolina wearing a visor with his signature on it. So I guess it's not that arrogant, but it's that kind of thing.
Piano behind you. So
that's where I write
an artistic vibe.
That's where I write my music. That's the secret of it. But no, it's a good one. And it's got some significance now and moving forward. So we'll see what happens. But I certainly, appreciate that. And you mentioned MGA Wealth. I may my wife has a need for something like this here in the near future, so I may actually give them a call and
there we go.
Have her give him a call, and maybe we'll have a testimonial for Sean and his group down there. Certainly appreciate the sponsorship.
Yeah, no doubt. Sean and MGNA Wealth, Nest and Wild Mattress, Encapsulate, which we'll tell you more about in the coming weeks and what it's done for both you and me from a health standpoint. That is
all over that
a banger product that you'll see the ads running on this show. The website is still working, still going. And
for now, still JC and Morgan. We got a new website coming, but jcandmorgan.com is still functional. And it will be until we switch over to a new one, but you can get all of our episodes there and learn about a lot of our partners and things like that. And also contact us there with the email form submission at jcandmorgan.com. Also the Chief Sports app.
Yes.
You can stream us live and listen to all of our shows there. Also on YouTube, there'll be a new destination for that. It's not leaving the old destination on Chief Sports South Carolina where we stream it, but there'll be another YouTube option that you can catch our smiling faces on in the near future. So lots going on behind the scenes with JC and Morgan as we move into 2025.
I love it. Year number 9 and counting of this show. And as always, we thank you. I know most of you can't watch it live or listen to it live, but for the many that do, whenever you do, we thank you for choosing us. And we'll continue to bring the heat each and every week here on JC and Morgan. Thanks to our producer, Phil Mad Dog Mullinax, for JC, for Mike, and for, our special guest, Tom Luginbill, today. We will see you next time. So long, everybody. We say goodbye till next week on JC and Morgan. Mike here for our friends at MGNA Wealth. It's never a bad time to have someone on your side for all your financial needs. You need a trustworthy partner who has a true understanding of your situation in order to help you with smart and practical solutions. Since 1984, MGNA Wealth has helped their clients manage not just their wealth, but their lives. Today, as a nationally recognized wealth management firm, their team of pros remains dedicated to serving your best interests with an emphasis on personal attention and customized solutions. MGNA Wealth has clients all across the country, and they all get results. Don't put it off any longer. Call our friends at MGNA Wealth at 954-289-9000. That's 954-289-9000. MGAwealth.com is the website. They do more than manage wealth. They help manage lives.
Blow on energy? Struggling with inflammation and poor digestion? Try Encapsulate 6 Mushroom Blend and get back in the game. Our blend is specially formulated to promote overall wellness and maximize health benefits using 6 powerful functional mushrooms. Our science-forward approach offers the most potent and bioavailable mushroom supplement on the market, backed by third-party testing to ensure safety and efficacy. Order online on Amazon or encapsulateusa.com today to start your journey to better living. Enter promo code JCM for $10 off.
Hey folks, want to tell you about our friends at Titan Construction Group really quick. They're a mid-Atlantic based general contractor, specializes in retail, restaurant, and office construction. TCG strives to separate itself from other general contractors by adding value every step of the process. From project budgeting to estimation, value engineering to construction, they focus on those relationships and not the transaction. Titan builds partnerships one project at a time. Among their clients are Starbucks, Crumble Cookie, Blake Pizza, Home Goods, 15 plus years experience, based in Midlothian, Virginia, and contracted in Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. So get on their website, Titan TitanCGinc.com. That's TitanCGinc.com. Get in touch with Brad if you're in need of a general contractor that focuses on going above and beyond for their clients. That's Titan Construction Group, a proud sponsor of the JC and Morgan podcast.
This